boss. I'm interviewing my
Oh
boss,
no.
and I forgot to hit right the one time. Anyway, okay. So now we're recording. I'll go to single screen and we'll start. Whoop! Not yet. I dropped the button. There we go. Oh boy. Okay. Three, two, one. Well, welcome everybody to episode 3 of BATHICA Banter. And I'm so excited about our guest today, a really unique young lady in our industry. You know her as HVAC Jess. She is a social media HVAC influencer and an HVAC technician. That's most important in British Columbia. And welcome, Jessica Bannister, HVAC Jess. Say hello to
Thank
everybody,
you.
Jess.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Jerry.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Jess, do I call you Jess? Do I call you Jessica? What do you prefer?
It's totally up to you, but Jess is my preferred.
Okay, I'm going to go with Jess. I like that too. So, Jess, look, I like to start every interview with the start, and what I mean by that is I would love for you to share with our audience what got you to your HVAC point in your career right now. Please share with us your journey that got you to where you are now.
Well, HVACR is my second career. I became an apprentice at the ripe age of 35 years old. I had an opportunity to work with my dad and my brother. And so, yeah, I registered as an apprentice in British Columbia in March of 2018. And unfortunately, it took 2 years before I was able to get into a refrigeration school. In British Columbia, we've got to do 4 levels of refrigeration school or trade school, and we have to accumulate 7,200 hours in the field before we can write our qualification exam.
Wow.
So I started that in February of 2020, and our class got cut short by a week because of COVID. So that was a very interesting time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I've just been progressing through my apprenticeship here in BC. Actually, I should be doing my level 4 currently. I was supposed to start on Monday this week, but I've actually postponed my level 4 just because we had a bit of a family emergency a couple months ago. My dad had a stroke,
Mm.
and the timing of everything just happened that I had to either pay my tuition in full or give up my spot like the day he was having a surgery. So
Right.
things were a little bit uncertain. So I've pushed that off to November. So my apprenticeship, my 4-year apprenticeship, is probably going to take me about 6 or 7 years in total, which is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fine. So please, your dad, give us an update. How's your dad doing?
He, excuse me, he has recovered fully. It is
Oh,
incredible. He had a blood clot in his neck, which they removed surgically, and pretty much the next day he was ready to go. Like,
wow.
excuse me. Yes, after his surgery, his recovery has been incredible. And we were hoping that he would take a bit of time off because he just turned 68 as well. And he's showing no signs of slowing down. And so we were thinking maybe he would take a bit of time, maybe at the end of the year. But no, he is still ready to rock and roll.
Well, I can appreciate that. Your dad's a little bit older than I am. I'm 62. And I think, as you know, as everybody knows, I had my own health issue this year as well. Well,
Yes.
last year. So yeah, it's good to hear that he's on the mend, and I can appreciate him wanting to get back to work so quickly. I did too,
Yeah.
against everyone's best wishes and my doctor's. Come on, we, we have to get back to work at some point.
Yeah.
So I
There's no
appreciate.
way he's sitting at home. Yeah.
Yeah, no. It's just so hard. Well, look, Jess, I see on your Facebook that you work for Cam Cool Refrigeration, which is so interesting because let me tell you this: we have a mutual friend, and that's Gary McCready, the HVAC know-it-all. And before he went out on his own, McCready Service, I never knew who he worked for. I still don't know who he worked for. He was the HVAC know-it-all, clearly working for someone, but to this day, I don't know who. So it was nice to know who you work for, but all I have is the name. Please share with us a little bit about Cam Cool Refrigeration. The name alone sounds really cool, literally.
So yeah, Cam Cool is my dad's company. He started it in 2002, shortly after we immigrated from South Africa. He had his own business in South Africa that was very successful because we lived in a very small town back in South Africa. So when we moved to Canada in November of 2000, he had to do a bit of requalification, and then he opened up his new business pretty much right away. And so that's Campbell. And back in South Africa, our company was called Campbell's Refrigeration because my maiden name is Campbell. And so we were trying to get the same sort of name here in Vancouver, but unfortunately, someone already had that name for their business. So he just shortened it to Cam Cool, which is really funny now because everyone calls him Cam.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I didn't know that you originated from South Africa. And until this moment, I never detected your accent before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
We've
good.
been here 24 years this year. So it's
You
the
still got
accent
an
is
accent,
faded.
Jess. Well, I'm proud of my New York accent, so I'm sure you're proud of yours as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, look, Jess, on your videos that I see on Instagram mostly, um, I noticed that there's a young man that seems to be with you more often than not. Tell me who this young man is. Is he a workmate? Is he your teammate at Cam Cool? Who is this young guy that I always see you with out on the job sites?
So he is my workmate, my teammate at CamCool, but first and foremost, he is my brother.
Ah,
So yes, he's my brother. I would consider him probably my best friend as well. And the interesting dynamic between us is, so he's also my mentor and my journeyman. I'm learning from him, but he's 5 years younger than me. So he's been in the trade for about 12 years. And so now he is teaching me his trade. And the dynamic between us has been quite interesting. And I love working with him. I think we are very lucky to have such a good working relationship together. So yeah, it's really good. His name is Trevor.
Trevor,
Mhm.
excellent. Um, well, I always say, and this is just from personal experience, yes, that brothers never seem to work well together in our industry. I don't know why that is, but there's a terrible history of brothers working together. So hopefully a brother and a sister makes a difference. That does sound like a better combination.
Yeah.
And you learning from younger brother, right?
Yep, very interesting. It was funny in the beginning, but it's sort of worked itself out into this cool thing now. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Great. That is beautiful. So, Jess, look, I'm going to get right to the reason why I was so excited about you being a guest on BATHICA Banter. And I will admit to you and to our audience, it was for completely selfish reasons. I am so interested in finding out what it is about our beautiful trade, about HVACR, uh, that attracted a smart young lady like yourself into our trade. And the reason why this is so important to me is because as a trade, we need to accentuate whatever that is to bring other people just like you into the industry. So please share with us, what was it about HVAC that interested you and keeps you interested?
Right. So I wish I could say that following my dad's footsteps, as a little girl, I followed him around and was interested in what he was doing, but that's not the story at all. Um, my dad was always a refrigeration mechanic since the day I was born. And for some reason, I think I know the reason, but for some reason, it never crossed my mind that that's something I could do.
Hmm.
My brother did it naturally because he just followed in my dad's footsteps as well, but it never crossed my mind that I could do the thing that my dad did. He never came to me and said, "Hey Jess, do you want to come try what I do and give it a try and see if you like it?" It was always just the assumption that Trevor would take over the family business one day, and I was just
Yeah.
not in it.
Yeah.
So I did have an opportunity to work at CamCool, and I started in the office because that's where my experience and knowledge and stuff came from.
Sure.
But I was having difficulty with the jargon, the language in the office. I was doing invoicing and quoting, and it's very embarrassing to say this now, but I was having like I couldn't differentiate between a capacitor and a compressor and a condenser and a capillary. Like it all sounds kind of the same thing. I'm like, why does one cost $7 and one cost $1,400? What's going on here? And not only that, but my dad and my brother would come back from their day out, and they would come back with all these stories of places they'd been, things they'd seen, people they'd met, problems they'd solved. And I was like, why am I sitting behind this computer all day? Like, I don't like this. So it started with me doing a couple of ride-alongs with my dad. I wanted to see what their day-to-day would look like, kind of see what a compressor looked like. And so he took me on a few ride-alongs, and Jerry, I loved it so much. I had no idea that I would enjoy climbing up ladders and looking at equipment, using power tools, all the physicalness of it. I didn't even have any idea that I would enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
And so I would tell my dad, oh, I've got no bookkeeping to do today. Can I come with you? And I would just squirrel it away, and I would do it in the evenings and weekends, which I still do. That's still one of my duties at Camp Cool. And I would just come out more and more often with them. And what I love so much, and what's drawn me and what's kept me and what's made me so passionate, is a number of things. One of them is I do commercial HVAC. So one of them is that every day is different. There's no 2 days the same. I get to visit so many interesting places. Like, one of my favorite things is going behind, authorized access only doors.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I get to see the behind the scenes things of like grains manufacturing and pizza making. And we worked on lobster tanks, and like, it's just so interesting. It's fascinating. And then the second reason, I think, is because we get to help people solve real problems. Sometimes we arrive and, their freezer is down and they're losing product as we're speaking. And you arrive and they're like singing your praise, like, oh, you guys have arrived, thank you. And then when you're able to solve their problem and you leave, they're just so grateful and thankful that you've, saved them. And whether that is their product that's thawing out by the minute, or if they're just really uncomfortable and they need some relief, we're solving real problems. And that's just awesome.
Yeah, no question about it. I recently had a gentleman named Victor Hyman, who is the head of Climate Care Canada, which is a cooperative of contractors in Canada. But the reason why I bring up Victor, oh my gosh, Jess, this is where editing is important, because I just completely forgot why I was bringing up Victor. Oh my gosh. See, some people call that a senior moment. I call that a resin drip. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I got it.
Anyway, we'll move on from that. But let me think about why I was bringing up Victor.
Well, I did watch that episode, and you were talking about like making trade sexy for the next generation.
Yeah. I'm gonna move on. Excuse me on that. Okay. So, just if my memory serves, you and I met at one of my Toso BATHICA training sessions in BC just last month, or early December, I believe it was. And again, if my memory is correct, and it usually isn't, I believe at that particular event, there were a total of 4 women in a class of probably 20 or so attendees. And I will tell you that is not the norm for me. Usually there's one. Well, to be honest with you, usually there's none. That's just the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this, Jess, is how often does that happen when you attend trainings, or when you applied for positions, or when you went to trade school? How many women were with you? Give us an idea of percentages, if you can.
Percentage? Probably less than 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that training session was unique. I was actually very excited. I went over to each of them and I was like, hi, I'm Jess. I gave them some stickers and
Yeah.
yeah, no, that is definitely not the case. I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I like to take advantage of every free training that I can if I've got the time. And I've been the single girl in the room many times. There was one time where one of the trainers was a woman, and that got me very excited,
Yeah.
but instantly disappointed when they started their presentation. She basically introduced herself and then left the room. And I was
Mm.
like, this would be a great opportunity for you to, like, I don't expect you to take over the training by any means, but if you can maybe speak to us for, say, 30 minutes about something that you are an expert in. I think that's just so important for everyone in the room to see a woman at the front of, again, not taking over the whole thing, but
Sure.
just having a piece of it. It's important for the single or more women in the room to have that representation, but also I think it's important for the guys to start seeing more women in these roles, because I say this on my Instagram all the time. It's not about if they see a woman on the job site eventually, it's when it's going
Right.
to happen. And if they're seeing women up there in, in leadership positions giving their speech or, whatever, I think that just it goes so far.
No question. I absolutely agree with you. There's another young lady that I've noticed on LinkedIn, and I bet you know her because I think you guys are members of the same organization. Shawana Petal.
Pedal, yeah.
Yeah, right. And just the other day, I noticed she put out a post saying that she was just so happy and so surprised and so grateful that she had reached 10,000 followers on
Yes.
LinkedIn. And boy, I'm jealous. I'm not even up to 3,000 myself. So first of all, that's what got my attention. But yeah, Jess, you're absolutely right. It just has to get to a point where seeing a woman on a job site, seeing a woman in this industry, seeing a woman in this trade just is second nature to us, is first nature to us. It should
Mhm.
not be the unusual, right? It should be the norm, and hopefully in your lifetime that will happen. I don't know if it'll happen in mine, but
Yeah.
I think people like you will make it happen in your lifetime. Well,
Thank
that's
you.
cool, Jess. Hey, look. So speaking of an organization that you and Shawana are members of, I know that there are organizations dedicated to promoting women in our trade, not only our trade, but in other trades as well.
Yeah.
A couple of them that I've become aware of is Women in HVACR Canada. And then there's something called She Wears Boots, which I just love the name of that. And I'm sure there's others. But from looking at the CamCool website, I didn't know this until I started doing a little research about you in preparation for this interview. You're the president of Women in HVACR. Is that true?
Yes. Well, at this current moment, there is going to be an announcement, but I'm actually the outgoing president. I've been the president for the last
Okay.
three years. So, but yes, it's been a really amazing opportunity for me to be the face and almost the spokesperson for
Yeah.
the organization. It's been really good, and I think at this point we're ready to transition and really take off. The organization, it's a nonprofit organization, and it's very heavy in Ontario. Most of our members and board members are based in Ontario,
Okay.
so I'm hoping to have just a bigger presence out here in BC and honestly the rest of Canada.
Very, very cool. And what is the mission of Women in HVACR? What is your mission statement, if you would?
Yeah. So we're just trying to raise awareness and maybe a bit of inspiration and education and be a resource for women in this industry. And it's women that are choosing first careers. So we're really trying to hit young girls. We go into a lot of career fairs at schools and stuff like that. And then also for women trying a second career like me, we just want to be a resource for them to come and get the information they need. Maybe that we have got some job postings and some like grant application information and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, look, Jess, I want to get beyond the fact that you're a woman in HVAC. Let's just talk tradesperson to tradesperson here, because I'm sure you wanted to be judged as a tech and not as a woman tech, right? Right? Absolutely. So let's
Yes.
move beyond that for a little while. And please share with us your thoughts on what you think the greatest challenge is for young people, male or female, getting into our trade right now. You mentioned that you had trouble getting into a curriculum, into a program.
Yeah.
Uh, so, where are the challenges now?
So yeah, in British Columbia, there is seems to be a long wait to get into schools. We seem to have two technical schools out here, and the wait to get in is about 2 years. So I think it is, yeah, I think that's quite challenging, especially if you're
Yeah,
interested and like ready to go, because like you mentioned before, it's really tough to recruit people into the trades at that young age, and I think there's a lot of work to be done there, both to speak to kids, but also to get to the schools and to the parents, because I think there's still, as much as I think there's been a shift in the industry, there's still that stigma attached to the trades, and whether it's the kid choosing a career thinking of these things, or the parents saying, kind of prefer my kid to be an accountant, you
yeah,
know I think there's a lot of work to be done there. um, People that still think that the skilled trades are like a lesser career, or they're for the less intelligent kids going through refrigeration school, I can promise you that is not the case. I
yeah.
found it very challenging, and yeah.
Yeah, again, it brings me back to a recent conversation I had with another guest on BATHICA Banter, Victor Hyman, and we were talking about the challenges, essentially the same question I just posed to you, the challenges that young people have getting into the industry, and a 2 year wait though, that's just something's
Yeah.
wrong there, Jess. Um,
Yeah, and so my idea was when I started level one, I was like, well, I'll just register for level two, three, and four right away, so that I don't
yeah,
have to have that wait. But that's not how it works. You can only register for your next level in your current level.
yeah,
So in level one, I during level one I can register for level two, but not until then. So
right.
yeah, it's a bit. It's yeah.
Yeah, that's something that sounds broken. That should and can be fixed. So maybe some people with some power may watch our episode here, and maybe we can get to the right people, because that's just not a good thing. Because if someone has to wait 2 years, Jess, I'm going to look for something else, right? I mean, that's just
Absolutely.
the economics of the world. Everybody has to make a living, whether
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
17 years old or 70 years old. Um,
Well, the good thing though is like once you've registered, you can still work as an apprentice under your company. So you're still
Beautiful.
getting that experience and that salary, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just that you can't, progress in your apprenticeship
Gotcha.
like
Gotcha.
officially.
But you can be making a living during the process, and that's important for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Another thing you mentioned, that there still is a stigma, that is the word.
Mhm.
I wish it wasn't the appropriate word, but there still is somewhat of a stigma about the trades. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Jess. In my day, going to a vocational school was usually court ordered, if you know what I
Mhm.
mean.
Mhm.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, and that's obviously unfortunate. I always say this when I see young people at one of my training events. I always make a point of saying to them, look, I don't care what got you here. I don't care what got your fanny in the seat today. It doesn't matter to me. But whether you were aware of it or not, you've made a wise decision, because
Absolutely.
there are so many different avenues to take within the trade, so many different ways to make a living. You've discussed some of them already. You started in the office of Cam Cool, and now you're
Mhm.
out in the field. I'm 62 years old, Jess. I can't physically do it anymore. My body wore out, but I'm doing this. It still keeps my head in it, though my hands
Exactly.
aren't anymore. My head is in it. So there's so many different ways to make a living, and a fine living. And something I discussed with Victor Hyman in our interview was how many professions can you name where you got a real good chance, an honest to goodness chance to own your own company someday? You know,
For sure.
the people who thought they were so smart going into computers, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those people are unemployed right now, where we're making a living, right? And young people are making a good living in the trade. And during
Exactly.
COVID, you mentioned COVID. During COVID, we were essential, Jess.
Yes, we were.
I always love that. We
Yeah.
were essential.
We're
Yeah.
recession and pandemic proof. We always say that. People
No
need us.
question. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, that is the economic side of it, right? When it's a recession, people fix what is there. When the economy is good, people replace what is there. And we're doing both of those. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you know, I wrote an article. I write a lot of articles, and one recently was published in HPAC magazine, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It's a
Yes.
Canadian publication, and it spoke of actually some of my challenges as a young person in HVAC. And my point, Jess, is this: I got an email from a mom of a high school student who was asking me, do I think it's a good idea for her son to possibly go into the trades? And you know, it's, I think you get the same encouragement. You know, we put a lot out there on social media. We put a lot out there. I do in writing. And if you get one response like that, doesn't it make it all worth it, Jess?
Oh my goodness. I had one this week. I had one on
I
my,
think I saw it on
yeah.
Instagram, right? Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes you have these moments of weakness and you're like, why am I putting so much effort and time and energy into this? And then you get one message and you're like, that's why. That's
Yeah,
why.
I think in your case, you were editing videos and you were
Yeah.
like, why do I spend so much time? And then you got a response like I got from this mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make it all worthwhile for sure. So look, Jess, again, going back to where you and I first met, which I think was at Independent Supply, or a class sponsored by Independent Supply
Yeah.
in Surrey, BC. After the 4-hour curriculum, you came up to me as I was packing up my AV stuff, and you introduced yourself to me, and you handed me your sticker, which I will share with our audience right now, the
Yeah.
HVAC Jess sticker. And I have to be completely honest with you. I didn't know who you were before that moment. I had no idea what HVAC Jess was, and it made me find out who you were, and
Awesome.
it blew me away. I was so excited about you and about your journey and your quest and your goals. But I need to ask you, what inspired the HVAC Jess sticker? I actually see on your website on HVAC Jess that you have an opportunity where people can ask you for the sticker.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell me, what prompted that? What got the sticker going?
So I don't know when it started or how it started, but on Instagram, there was this tradesman sticker swap movement thing
Oh,
that started. And people that were putting themselves on Instagram made their little brand into a sticker. And we
beautiful.
were mailing them all across the world. Honestly, it was the most exciting time for a while. Like you would check your mail, and actually, I got one of them yesterday. Here's another one from Ice Master Ty. I haven't opened them yet, but there's some stickers in there for me. And if I may, just quickly, I don't know if I can
Yeah.
do this. I'm gonna turn my screen because I want to show you my sticker wall because it's impressive, and I'm proud of it.
Whoa.
So those are
Oh,
the
that's fantastic.
yeah, so those are the stickers I've been collecting over the last few years. And the way my sticker came about, the Tinkerbell, is actually the tattoo I've got on my arm. I've got a Tinkerbell with a wrench in her hand, and she's pretty badass.
Yes, yes, she is.
And I really love that I've chosen that because I get so many messages from guys that are like, I met you somewhere and you gave me your sticker and I gave it to my daughter and now she's interested in the skilled trades and it's working. It's working.
So cool. So I've become so interested in tattoos because I think I am the last male species on the planet to not have any tattoos. But
You're a queen.
I've always wanted one. And my obstacle is never being able to decide what I
Yeah.
want for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
But I think I have decided, and I've just been lazy about getting it done. I want to get lightning bolts, 2 lightning bolts,
Yeah.
one on my forearm, and I want them to represent the power of working with your hands.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Oh, cool. Good. I'm happy you love it. Yes.
Yes.
My wife's into it. She likes the idea. I've actually kind of mocked it up a little bit. I like the way it looks. So I think it's going to happen in 2024, but we'll see.
I'm excited for you. That's so cool.
And picking a tattoo artist, that's the next step, right? You want somebody to do it exactly the way you want it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So look, Jess, we're talking about the sticker. We're talking about HVAC, Jess. I can't do an interview with you without talking about your social media presence. It blows me away how well you do it.
Thank you.
Instagram seems to be your focus. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't. I'm sure you're on Facebook. I'm not,
Yeah.
so I don't know where you are there. But your Instagram, every day I see new stuff. Really, really cool. So I think it's great, not only for you, but for the industry. Again, it shows, there's a television show, I'm sure you were aware of it, called American Pickers. And it's these guys who go all around North America and they find antique items, and they've got a show that I think's been on for 20 years at this point. And there's a young lady on the show, Danielle Cobb, and Danielle is a part of that show. My understanding from Mike Wolf, who's the host of the show, because she was cool. He wanted someone who represented that people who were into antiques were not old people. We're not, nose up in the air, high society types, but that cool people got into it too. So that's why Danielle is on the show. And that's what I think you bring to the HVAC trade. Cool
Oh my
people
goodness.
like Jess are into it, and it makes other people attracted to it. So here's where I'm going with a long way to get to this question. How did that start for you? Was it just because of your age? You are a younger person. You were already familiar with social media, that it was a natural progression. But what got it to the point that it is today, if you would?
So I wasn't actually using social media very well or at all, basically, before I became an apprentice. I was doing it a little bit because for CamCool, I was trying to do a little bit of like local promoting. So I was part of the Chamber of Commerce, and I did some Toastmasters, and I would post about that, like my involvement with the community and stuff like that. But then when I became an apprentice, I wanted to document my journey for 2 reasons. One, that I am an older apprentice, so this is my second career, and I wanted to just like document that, but also definitely the women angle, the women in skilled trades angle. And then I started to really enjoy it, and it's become a bit of an addiction for me. I have to be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, okay, you're going to take a break. Okay, I'll just post this one thing, and just this one more thing. And I'm like, just do what you want to do, because it makes me very happy to create this content and post it. And it evolved. It's evolved. And I think it's still evolving. It's turned into such an amazing community of supportive and encouraging people. Instagram specifically. TikTok is another beast. That is like the wild, wild west out there. Everyone is out to get you. And I have a bit of a strategy with that. I just ignore every single comment in TikTok. I just don't even look at them. It's not worth my time. But Instagram is such an amazing community of people that are excited and passionate about the trade. And I really think that it's elevating the entire industry.
Well, you're a better person than I am, Jess, because I can't ignore the negative.
Yeah.
I was talking to Gary McCready about this just the other day, because I got a negative comment on LinkedIn, which is really the only social media I do. I do Instagram, but with Instagram, my account is dedicated to our product.
Yes.
And I promote our product through people like yourself sending me pictures of your installs. But yeah, I got really, I mean, it wasn't even HVAC related, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And my psyche, Jess, and I'm 62 years old, and one of the benefits of being 62 years old is I know myself pretty well at this point, and I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm like Popeye, I am who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change too much at 62 years old, though. I'm always trying to be a better person. The fact of the matter is, I am who I am, and my psyche is too fragile. I completely so I admire you. I saw Valerie Bertinelli. I don't know if you know who Valerie Bertinelli is, but
Yeah.
most people, you're probably your age, know her from her cooking show. Most people my age remember her as a young actress on a sitcom and TV, and then the youngest generation know her as Wolfgang Van Halen's mom. In fact, that's her Instagram handle is Wolfie's mom. But I saw her interviewed recently, and she mentioned something very similar, if not exactly, to what you just said. That the negative stuff, she says she doesn't accept. And that's the word she used. She does not accept it,
Yeah.
and she actually feels bad for the person who's making the negative comment because their lives must be so empty that they need to find someone like her, someone they've never met, someone they've never talked to personally, and attack them.
Yeah.
And she says, that's not mine. That. So I don't accept it. But boy, it's hard. I think it's hard to do.
Yeah.
At least
It's
for me.
hard. Well, you know what really helped me is I was watching a documentary about social media, and they mentioned something about troll farms.
Yeah.
And I was like, pardon me, that's a thing. People get paid to troll on the internet. And just knowing that, that's helped me tremendously. I'm like, whoever's saying that is maybe they're getting paid and they're just there to get a reaction out of me. And I'll be honest, I would say maybe 99% of them I don't read. But if I do read one, oh, it gets you right in the heart.
Right?
We're human beings at the end of the day. Like,
No question.
words hurt.
Words do hurt. Another personal experience, which I think I shared with you in the group the day we met at that training that I conducted. I've been trying to find a lady who works for Air Canada. And I won't get into that whole story because that is a whole nother story. Most people who would watch this know that situation.
Yeah.
But I was featured in a news program in British Columbia about this search that I'm trying to find this woman. And the comments on YouTube about what is, in my opinion, a beautiful story. Someone who helped me in my weakest moment, right?
Yeah.
Who helped save my life. How people went after me, that I was paid to do this by Air Canada. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
it just blew my mind how someone could take something as beautiful as that and twist it. But
yeah,
it is what it is, Jess.
I think we just have to realize that what we're putting out there, if it is authentic, which I think it really is, if we're putting it out there, it's gonna reach the right people, and it may reach the wrong people as well along the way, but those are not your people. So keep pushing. I really hate when people like they get discouraged from posting things and sharing things because of people's comments. Share what you want to share. Ignore what they say.
I'm with you. I get discouraged, but it doesn't stop me. I will say that. Yeah, it doesn't stop me, Jess. And an example of that, I know I keep on going back to Victor Hyman and him being a recent guest, but there was a couple of really interesting subjects that we talked about. And I won't go too far down that road, but I was considering, and I ultimately did take a segment of that interview, which was very, very personal to him, a subject extremely personal. And I created just a little clip and I posted it on LinkedIn, but I did it with such apprehension. I was so concerned about if I was opening up the floodgates for negativity. And I'm happy to say there wasn't one negative comment. So maybe there's hope for humanity yet.
Yes. Excellent. That's good. I watched that interview with Victor, and it was interesting when he was saying, he was also apprehensive or about posting what he did, and then
Yeah.
that ended up being his most viral and most liked post. And I really think, again, going back to the authenticity thing, if you're doing it from a place of realness from inside of you, I think it's going to hit the right people.
Yeah. But I'm going to, because you're such an expert on this social media issue, I want to run this by you. Uh, the negative stuff, though, Jess, often is what goes viral.
Yeah.
I do not consider anything I've ever posted has gone viral. The most hits I've ever gotten on LinkedIn uh, was actually quite recently when I was just going around my own neighborhood, minding my own business, going to get an iced tea or something at the local convenience shop. And on the way back, I passed this home that had a mini split installed that was an absolute mess, Jess. I had to pull over and take a picture.
Oh,
And
no.
I posted a picture of it because clearly it was a do-it-yourself job. There was no question about it, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't point out the manufacturer. That's not what my post was about. My post was about, in fact, the subject was DIY versus a professional install.
Mhm.
Why? What motivates a homeowner to go down that road of DIY?
Yeah.
And it's gotten to date, like I think close to now 14,000 hits, 75 comments. But where I'm going with this, Jess, is essentially it was a negative post, right?
Yeah.
And I recognize that. It was not, it was a bad job. It wasn't a good job.
Mhm.
And I just find that unfortunately, it seems the negative stuff is what has the potential of going viral.
Mhm.
I don't know what statement I'm making here, other than, again, it just kind of I lose faith in humanity from from time
Well,
to time.
I'm just sitting here thinking about that, and I feel like it's along the same vein as entertainment, like what we consider entertainment on movies and stuff like that. It's a lot of the time it's violence and suffering, and
Yeah.
it's you know it's
Yeah.
it's not the good stuff that's getting all of like the blockbusters. And
No, you're
yeah.
right.
I think
I
it's a bit sad, but I don't know if there's any way to change it.
No, there isn't. Yeah, it just upsets me that, that seems to be the negativity seems to what attracts
A
people.
draw, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on, Jess. So look, Jess, I'm interested in this. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see
Mm.
yourself in 10 years? What's your ultimate goals in and out of HVAC? Please.
I would really like to continue this path of being a spokesperson for women. No, not even women, for people in skilled trades. Like I
Yeah.
really would like to keep on with that path through social media. I've got a little YouTube channel that I'd really like to grow into something bigger, and just become a resource for people that are looking to be in the trades, or yeah, specifically HVAC, if I will say.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a really cool thing that our careers can evolve with us as our ourselves and our bodies evolve. So can our careers, and we can still stay in this industry, which I think is very cool. Um, I would love to do something similar to what you do, going around doing trainings. I think it would just be so great to be in front of so many different people. And I always love the energy in a room with a trainer, because everyone in the room has stories, and you
Yeah.
can learn something from everybody, whether they're asking a good question or telling a story. But yeah, no, I'd really like to continue what I'm doing. I feel for some reason that I need to get my qualification like in my hand before I can start making more sort of educational sort of videos. I think that's just like a self-inflicted holdback. I don't know.
Well, whether it's self-inflicted or not, I think it's I think it's admirable, and I'll tell you why. I always tell people about trainers, of which I am. Don't be afraid to ask me my credentials.
Right.
If you're going to honor me, and that's how I feel about it, if you're going to honor me with 4 hours of your valuable time, make sure I got something valuable to say.
Right.
And I would never, anybody who's worth their salt is not going to be insulted by you asking their credentials,
Hmm.
right? I am a licensed master HVAC technician in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm glad to share with anybody my license on the wall. Uh, my LinkedIn is an open book. It'll show you exactly my background. I've been through every step of this wonderful trade of ours. So, yeah, I love that you even have thought about that. That you feel you want to have the credentials, so to speak,
Yes.
behind it before you go on to an educational side.
Yeah.
But another thing that jumped out at me about what you said is to have you and women in front of groups as teaching curriculums in our trade. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes. I think that would just go so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jess, you got a future in that. We need to talk.
I
I
like
think
it.
we can make that happen for sure. That's exciting. And another thing you said about energy in a room, I thrive on that. I think you witnessed that when you
Yes.
saw my curriculum. Sometimes, well, COVID was the perfect example. Uh, I did webinars instead of in-person trainings during COVID, and I'll always appreciate the format of the webinar because it kept me employed, quite frankly. But if I am completely honest with you, I really don't like webinars
Mm-mm.
because there's no energy, there's no back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't even know if you know you do this, but when you were in front of me, and you were in front of me, so it's like church when I conduct trainings, right? Everybody gravitates to the back of the room, right? But you sat up front, and you were so engaged with all the information I was giving. I don't get that with a webinar. You
Yeah.
know, you can't see the people in front of you, so yeah, energy is critical, I think, for a trainer, or anybody who's in front of a crowd for sure. But I think
Absolutely.
I think you'd be great at it, Jess, for sure. There's no
Oh, thank
question.
you.
Yeah. Hey, Jess, let's move on to some bigger issues. Our trade, our industry is going through some monumental changes, especially in 2024.
Yeah.
And your province, specifically British Columbia, was very, very early on in the movement away from fossil fuels, natural gas to be specific. I know the city of Vancouver, uh, I believe natural gas is no longer available for new construction
Yeah.
in Vancouver. And I see that in New York City. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime, where you couldn't have natural gas in a new build in New York City. Blows my mind. But
Mhm.
this is where I'm going with this, Jess. So clearly there's this movement in both of our countries to move away from fossil fuels into what has now become electrification, a brand new word
Mhm.
in our vocabulary, right? Electrification. So where do you fall on this? How do you feel about that movement away from fossil fuels to electrification? Share that with us if you would.
I think that it's progress. It's evolution, human evolution. It's progress, and I feel like whether you are on board or whether you're not, and I think it's quite a polarized
Yeah.
subject. Whether you are on board or not, it's happening. And personally, I am on board. I think moving away from fossil fuels is definitely the way to go. They're a finite resource, and we're destroying the planet getting it. And it's about time we changed. And I am all for it. I think, though, it's going to take a lot longer than everyone expects. I think I sort of, if I may, I sort of equate it to having women in the skilled trades. Like, it's happening, it's
Yes.
moving that direction, but it's going to take a long time. And I think people are especially governments, they're pushing really hard and they're making all these promises, and I think it's going to take a lot longer than people realize, but we're going to get there eventually.
No question. I agree with you on every point. And my problem with the political people is, with political people, everything always seems to be black and white. There's no gray area.
Yeah.
So they want this all to happen tomorrow, you know, and there's so many reasons why it can't and frankly shouldn't happen tomorrow, that it has to be a progression. First and foremost, the electrical grid isn't ready for everybody
Exactly.
to be driving an electrical car and having a heat pump. So there has to be a building of the grid as well, simultaneous to this.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I agree with you on every level. Fossil fuels, certainly not environmentally friendly. Some more friendly than others, but as a general, not environmentally friendly. And look, I make a living selling heat pumps, so come on, you know, I've got a biased approach to this. There's no question about it. But I also live with it. You know, there's a heat pump in this structure right now. There's a heat pump in my residential home. So it is no question. It is the movement. As you said, Jess, it's moving that way. So let's get on board and try to make the best of it for sure. Yeah. Okay. I mean, really switching gears with you right now.
Okay.
Completely moving away from the HVAC topic. I see you a lot on Instagram where you're producing videos and talking to us from a gymnasium, from a gym, where you're working out, you're doing headstands, all kinds of really cool physical things. So clearly, Jess, your physical health is important to you, and I commend you for that. That was the problem with my generation. We got into the trade, which is a physical job. Let's be honest.
Very
right?
much.
Very much, right? And we didn't think about our physical health, and something that a personal subject was, we certainly never thought about our mental health, right? Which is equally important to our physical health. So here's my question to you, Jess. Please share with us your exercise routine. Clearly, you're in the gym quite often. Why is it so important to you, and how does it help you both in mind and your physical body in doing your job?
Yes, it is very important to me, and I think it should be more important to more people. But just like you said, I like to get my workouts done in the morning before work. I find at the end of the day, I'm tired, I'm pooped, okay, to be honest, I've got lots of videos to go through at the end of the day, so I don't have time for the gym. So I like to get that done early in the morning. And yeah, I like to do a nice combination of cardio on the treadmill, weightlifting, and also stretching is really important as well to me. It's important to me because I'm petite. I'm a small person, and in this physical job, I take personal responsibility to be able to keep up with everybody else. And while I won't ever be as strong as my brother is, I think we make a good team that way. But I do take personal responsibility for that. Like, I want to be stronger and fitter and be able to carry the things that I need to. Sometimes it blows my mind getting all of that supplies and equipment up onto a rooftop to start your job, and just getting that stuff to the unit. It takes you out, and then you have to do the job, and then you have to redo that all to get it all back. So yeah, it's very important to me. But also the mental part. I'm very lucky, Jerry. I've never had to watch what I eat or anything like that. So the gym is to keep my body, yes, to be stronger, but mostly my mind, because let's face it, this industry is a little bit challenging, whether it's pulling your hair out on a problem or dealing with a difficult client. I think it's very important. And sometimes we're up in a ceiling space, we're on a ladder in a ceiling space. It feels like we're alone, and you're sometimes getting frustrated, and you say a few things and you forget that there's an office down below that can hear everything you're saying. So you got to try to keep your cool.
Oh, I've been guilty of that back in my day for sure. Yeah. You forget that a drop ceiling, everybody hears everything you
Yep.
say through the entire office.
So
Yeah.
every frustrated, yep.
Well, again, Jess, I think it's brilliant. And I think it's brilliant that you share that with everybody because, again, my generation didn't,
Yeah.
either on the physical or the mental side of it. And I think we suffer. I know that we suffered from it. So important that people are aware.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, terrific stuff, Jess. Well, look, Jess, we are at the end or almost the end of our time together. So when this goes to air, you'll see that I do something at the end of every BATHICA Banter show, something called Jerry's Pick of the Month, where I share with the audience something that I've discovered in the last 30 days. And it could be anything from a book to a video to a documentary to a tool. Oftentimes it's something completely out of the HVAC realm, but just something I really felt strongly about and wanted to share with everybody. So what I've been doing now in 2024 with the new program is to offer my guests that same opportunity. So here it is, Jess. What have you discovered recently that you want to share with our audience, please?
So mine is not HVAC related.
Yeah,
It's
good.
entertainment related, and I'm kind of, I don't know if I've been under a rock or something, but there is a show that Ewan McGregor did with his best friend where they do motorcycle trips across, like major motorcycle trips across the world. And as a fellow motorcyclist, I love this show. So the first one was from 2004. It was called The Long Way Around. And they traveled on motorcycles from London through Russia. They caught a little tiny plane to Alaska, and then they continued to New York, which was so cool. And then the second season, I think, was from 2007. That was called The Long Way Down. And again, that has a closest to my heart because they went from Scotland all the way through Africa and ended up in Cape Town. So
Okay.
cool.
Sure.
And then the third season actually just started episode 1 last night. It's called The Long Way Up, and they go from Argentina in South America, and they go all the way up to Los Angeles.
First of all, I didn't know you were into motorcycles, so that's super cool. I am as well. I have never heard of this particular show. When you started describing it, I thought you were going to talk about a show. I think it's called Moto 5, Moto 4, Moto 3. It's something I've seen on the network Mav TV.
Okay.
But it sounds very similar to what you're describing, where they go to these incredible locations. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. Number one, from a visual point of view, but yeah, and then to add motorcycles to it is just so cool.
Well,
So
and
tell
they
me,
like camp along, and just the types of people that's the best part is the people that they meet along the way, because they're traveling through these pretty scary countries, especially through Africa, and you're like, and they're warned by so many people, don't do this, don't do that, and the people they meet are just so wonderful.
tell me again the name of the host.
It's Ewan McGregor, and
Okay,
his friend Charlie.
great. I'm gonna definitely check it out for sure. So, do you have a bike, Jess?
I do. I have a Honda CBX 500. Go out in summertime. It's not insured right now, but it will be.
Very cool. Well, I've gotten out of street riding. Quite frankly, I've developed a fear, to be honest with you, of street riding. But I went back to being 12 years old, and I now have a collection of the vintage Honda CT70s. They were called trail bikes,
Okay.
and little 70cc bikes. And I wanted one when I was 12 years old, Jess, and my parents wouldn't let me have it. So now I have one of every color. I'm
Making
serious.
up for it.
I'll have to send you pictures. I would love for you to see them.
I love it.
Absolutely. Well, Jess, I cannot thank you enough for this. I was so excited when you first agreed to do the interview, and because I knew you'd knock it out of the park, and
Oh,
this
thank
far
you.
exceeded my what I thought would happen. It's just a great chat, and yeah, can't thank you enough, Jess. Really
Well, thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you for having me here, Jerry. I've had a really good time.
Very cool. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
I'm just going to stop recording.